Madam Speaker, pursuant to the rule, I call up the joint resolution H.J. Res. 44 and ask for its immediate consideration.
The clerk will report the title of the joint resolution.
House Joint Resolution 44. Joint resolution making further continuing appropriations for fiscal year 2011 and for other purposes.
Pursuant to House Resolution 115, the gentleman from Kentucky, Mr. Rogers, and the gentleman from Washington, Mr. Dix, will each control 30 minutes. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Kentucky.
Madam Speaker, the House is not in order.
Gentleman's correct. The House is not in order. The House will be in order. Members and staff are advised to take their conversations off the floor. The House will be in order. Gentleman from Kentucky.
Madam Speaker, I yield myself such time as I may consume.
Gentleman's recognized.
I rise today in support of H.J. Res. 44, the fiscal 2011 further continuing appropriations resolution. This temporary CR is an extra special effort by the majority Republicans to avoid a government shutdown that could otherwise occur on March 4th when the current funding resolution expires. This temporary CR contains funding to allow all government agencies and programs to continue at the current rate of spending for the next 2 weeks until March 18th, 2011, while reducing spending by $4 billion through several spending cuts and program terminations. These cuts reflect this Republican majority's continued commitment to significantly reduce spending, rein in the nation's exploding deficits and debt, and to help our economy continue on the road to recovery. Madam Speaker, a government shutdown would halt critical and necessary services and programs that Americans across the country rely on, and is not what our constituents expect or demand. I would have greatly preferred that the Senate act on the hard-fought and thoughtfully crafted funding legislation that the House passed.
Gentleman's correct. The House is not in order. The House will be in order. Members and staff are advised to take their conversations off the floor. The House will be in order. The House will be in order. Gentleman from Kentucky.
Madam Speaker, the House is not in order.
The House will be in order. Members and staff are advised to take their conversations off the floor. The House will be in order. The gentleman from Kentucky.
I would have greatly preferred that the Senate act on the hard-fought and thoughtfully crafted funding legislation that the House passed almost 2 weeks ago, which saves the taxpayers $100 billion compared to the President's request. But it's clear that the Senate needs more time. So this short-term CR will provide an additional 2 weeks while cutting spending to show our continued resolve to get our nation's fiscal house in order. The bill before us terminates 8 programs for a savings of about $1.24 billion. These 8 programs were all targeted for elimination in the President's budget request, and have also been part of proposed cuts in the past in the House and the Senate by members of both parties. These 8 programs include election assistance grants, the broadband direct loan subsidy, the Smithsonian Institution Legacy Fund, the Striving Readers Program, the LEAP program, Even Start, smaller learning communities, and a one-time highway funding addition. In addition, the bill also eliminates more than $2.7 billion in funding previously reserved for earmarks, eliminations that the House, the Senate, and the White House have all called for this year. The earmark funding cuts in this legislation come from energy and water, Homeland Security, Labor, Health and Human Services, Legislative Branch, and Transportation, Housing, and Urban Development Program accounts. This legislation will represent the second of many appropriations bills this year that will significantly reduce spending, continuing a pattern of cuts that will help put our nation's budget back in balance and stop the dangerous spiral of unsustainable deficits and debt. It is my hope that this CR can be passed quickly and that the President will sign it before the March 4th deadline. This legislation should garner broad support today, given the short time frame for action and given the fact that these spending cuts have received previous bipartisan support by members of the House and Senate, as well as the White House. Madam Speaker, we're now 5 months into the current fiscal year, and it's critically important that we complete this budget process so that we can turn our attention quickly to passing funding bills for fiscal year 2012. It's high time we start looking forward instead of constantly looking back to clean up past mistakes and inaction. We must move forward quickly, in regular order, passing bills on time, in an open and transparent fashion, to avoid these budget uncertainties in the future. Madam Speaker, this is one more step that we have to take to get our fiscal house in order. While this isn't a perfect or an easy process, it is essential that we pass this bill, avoid a government shutdown, and continue work on long-term solution to complete this long overdue funding process. Our constituents expect and deserve no less. I reserve my balance.
Gentleman reserves the balance of his time. Gentleman from Washington.
I yield myself as